All right, you guys ready to get started? All right, so I'm gonna start with I'm gonna do a little go through a little bit of a review of some stuff we went through last time, and then get into financial functions to try to set us up for second homework. I want to ask you. I'm going to do a little quiz this class to get some information on kind of where you're at, and get some credit participation standard. So I want you to navigate to my website and then go to click on Hub and just enter your USC email, and it should let you. What you do is just select the quiz number 2. Then take a second. There's 4 questions. They're pretty simple. But go ahead and take a couple minutes just to answer these, and then we'll do a little bit of a review. Get into some stuff. How many people? Let me know if you have any issues. Zimmer.com, go to Hub.
Where's the hub? Oh, right. Yeah. Quiz 1 or 2?
Quiz 2. Quiz 1 was the one we did the first time.
Oh, okay. Next.
If I didn't do quiz 1 because I wasn't on this.
Don't worry about it. You're all right. It's just some initial data on kind of where people were when it came to themselves.
But if we get like we have to get it right for points, or it's just like for data.
The points are submission, so this is a participation. This is part of this participation, so I'm not grading it. I'm part of it's to see where you guys are at. Part of it's to collect information on where the class as a whole is at. So I'll look at it on an individual and a class-wide basis.
I wasn't
Don't know, but I don't know. Check my website. Email.
Just that it's not.
This is great.
No.
If you need more time. Good. You guys wanna participate, just go to my website, click on Hub. Enter your, click on Hub, you'll enter your email and then go to quiz 2. There's just a couple questions that cover material we did last time. Okay, this is just for like. This is why I'm kind of just. All right, so does anybody, let's kind of go through this. You can give me an answer. We've got an Excel function has 2 types of arguments, unbracketed and bracketed. What's the difference between those 2 types of arguments? Anybody remember that from last class? I'm gonna go through it after this. What's the difference? Yeah,
Okay, so you finally explained, but I'll try.
that's all right.
I think the unbracketed is where like you have to have like a first value of function, so that's the unbracketed value, and then bracketed is like any number of values that follow it in function.
Okay.
So it's like it can be any number
Okay.
of values, but it's like what you start from is the rest.
Okay. Does anybody else have either a different answer or an addition to that?
So unbracketed is like an argument that you must add for the function of the argument to work. The bracketed is optional. Like if you don't add it, it's still.
Yeah. Yep. So you're right. Just a slightly different response. So we'll take a look at how you write functions in a second, but just answer the question. So right. So unbracketed, and this is when Excel displays a function. So if we start typing a function, I type something, you'll see that there's a unbracketed and then a bracket. I do a different function. If I do a different function, let's say a press value, you'll see that there are unbracketed arguments, and then there are ones in brackets. So again, the ones that appear in unbracketed means they're required, and the other ones. So when we're calculating the present value, we need, or basically this is saying there are 3 inputs. So we need 3 pieces of information to give you a function for it to work. It could take up to 5. So we could add rate at the end for PMT payment. So those are required. And we could add in future value and type brackets, but we don't have to. I'm not going to really get into the optional ones for this class. Aren't really important. We're actually going to really only use functions where we have the required, where we utilize the required fields. But just so you know what this means. So when I'm actually filling this in, if I put a rate of like 2%, I put a comma, and you'll see that the function up here, the kind of thing that's bold, that moves one place over. So now it's telling me I'm entering the number of periods. So I put like 12, put a comma, and it's saying what's the payment, put like 1,000, and I close it, and that goes away, meaning I have everything in there, and then I can calculate my my present value, which is negative $1,000, but anyway, it didn't work out quite right. So that's what those terminologies mean. I'll write something down in a second once I do this, but any kind of quick questions on the difference between bracketed and unbracketed arguments? All right, so all right, the next one is write the Excel code that would add all of the numbers in the range A1 to A10. Somebody, how about this? What function are we going to use to do that? Yeah.
So,
Okay. So I mean, it's some function. So tell me what am I going to type in there to make that work?
it equals some parentheses, A1 colon A10.
Right. So that's what I would enter into a cell to sum that range. Again, a range in Excel. This is telling us is it's basically we're selecting all of the cells from A1. That colon basically means 2. So from A1 to A10, that's what we're selecting. Okay, what menu would you find icon to change the margins for the print preview? I promise you, I don't personally care about this at all, but the Moss exam for some reason really wants people to print out spreadsheets. So does anybody know where we find the print view? Page layout? Yeah, page layout. Find it here. If I want to change the margins, I can change it here. I change my print area, so yeah. To me, like, so what if I didn't know that? Say I'm here and I'm like, man, I have no idea how to figure out how to change the margins. What's one way we might figure that out?
Click on, tell me what it wants.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. And what would you search for?
Margin.
Margins? Cool. There you go. There's a little adjust margins. So again, that's like a really helpful thing if you're not sure where to go and you're lost in the interface. All right. Questions? Simple, hopefully. All right, last one. How would I modify the code equals A1 times B1 if I wanted to copy and paste the formula into another cell, but maintain cell A1 being reference? So we're talking about making cell A1 an absolute reference. So what would I do? Yeah.
Save that you put the dollar sign.
Right. So when I put a dollar sign, I'm doing $A, that means the A column. So if I move the columns left to right, the column's gonna stay. When I put the dollar sign in front of the 1, if I move rows, the row will stay. So by putting the dollar sign in front of both, that single cell will not move. It'll be referenced regardless of where I copy or paste. So then I'll just do times B1, that would be what was that. Okay. Cool. Any questions on any of these? Hopefully these are pretty simple. I just wanted to brush up on a couple of topics. All right. So just I started talking about functions last class, and here's the thing. Just gonna give you like a representation of what the different pieces are. How do I move this thing up? Alright, tell me if you guys can't see this. Let's just turn that off. So when we type a function again, we start or a formula, we'll call it, it's a formula. Start with the equal sign, right? And then the first thing that we're going to type is our function. So that's our function name. We open a function, so meaning we start the arguments with colon. We've got our starting argument. We've got a comma with whatever, and then we've got a bracketed argument. And then we close the formula. Right? All good. Again, without brackets, it's required. With brackets, it's optional. Now, within a function, my argument maybe it's like cell A1. Let's just say I've got one argument in code. So like that would work. Well, I don't know what function that is. I'm just putting functions. So in a sense, so if I wanted to make within this function, if I wanted to use an absolute reference, I can do that within a function. So I can make an absolute reference within a function. It doesn't have to be outside of it. So regardless of where I move this, copy and paste this to, in this one, that column A is always going to be referenced. Meaning if I'm in my cells, this is row 1, 2, 3. If I drag it down this way, in this one, that column is not going to be A, B. So if I drag this way, in this function, the column will not change. If I drag it down further, because I don't have an absolute reference there, the row will change. All right, so that's how it's going to work. It's pretty easy, but just trying to show that we can use an absolute reference within a function. That's not a problem. The other thing you could do, and we'll get this in another couple classes, but arguments don't necessarily need to be just like references to cells or numbers. They can be other functions. So we can reference. So if I had a function here that I wanted to do something like, equals average, potentially I could do sum of whatever as my argument that goes into my average. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Just let's say that we can use function as an argument with another function. Just from last week, the couple of functions that we talked about were like sum, we did average, we did max, min. Another one in there. So the summary on these functions is all the inputs are just numbers. So there wasn't anything really specific about the numbers that we're making. It's basically whatever one we want. It means something, right? The functions that we're going to be talking about today, financial functions, they have specific inputs. So that doesn't mean that like there are numbers that are going in, but the inputs are specific. So instead of when you bring the screen back down. And like a present value calculation. My inputs are my rate, my number of periods of my payments. So specific values that we want to make sure, if we type the rate as the second value instead of the first, it's not going to work. It's got to go in a specific format that it's actually. So a couple of functions that we can talk about. We got present value. Let's write this down to that my screen down. So first screen down. So we've got present value. We've got future value. got payments. We've got number of periods. We've got rate. And we've got one other one, which is called facts. And I'm gonna talk about that one first. And then we'll jump to the examples, just to think what that do. So, rate, when we calculate rate, what we're calculating is like the interest rate on a loan, or how much interest you may earn in the bank, or whatever. We're calculating some sort of interest rate. Effect is basically the same thing, except it's calculated slightly different. All right. I wish I had a. You can see everything. Yeah, everybody, we can see. All right. So the difference between rate and effect. So, if let's say I got $100 per bank, and my rate is 10%. All right. The way if I do rates, so in this example, the rate is 10%. The way kind of the effective rate is, let's say I earn if I earn 10% interest on $100, in month one, I'm gonna add $110 in my bank account, right? Because I'm adding 10%, and $10, so I add it back into my bank account. I calculate something just based on rate. It's essentially gonna add $10 to my bank account every month. The difference with effective rate is effective rate will actually look at it will, instead of calculating the amount that you earn per month on this salary, what it does is it looks every single month that you know that's added. So in month one, I got $100, I got $110, so 10% of 110 is $11. So then I got $21 in my bank. So the difference is like the effective rate. Why am I blanking on the term? Just it compounds. So if we're trying to calculate like a compounding rate, we use effects. If we're not, we use rate. This is not a finance class. I'm just trying to tell you the difference between these things. The exams and the homework will be very specific when they want the effective rate. The exams they ask for effective rate. It's the effective function. Way too long-winded explanation about effective rate, but that's the difference. In case you're curious. So I'd like to ask you guys to open. I actually want to let you work on a couple of these in class. I think these they're not that they're actually pretty simple, but they can get a little bit tricky. So I'd like to ask you if you can open My Educator. Open up the financial function, so it's 2.3. And then just come down and open the Excel doc here. So once again, the rate, the number of periods of payments, these are all kind of intermingled. So all these values are used in the same functions. It's just the question becomes kind of what do we know and what are we trying to figure out? The only thing that's a little bit strange when it comes to doing financial function calculations is when a interest rate is given to us, if it's an annualized interest rate and we're being asked to calculate something on a monthly basis, we need to divide that annualized interest rate by 12. So if I look at scenario 1 here, so you're told that with taxes and fees, the total amount of your car loan will be whatever. Sales personnel tells you that interest rate on your loan will be 5.99%. You will make 60 monthly payments of $250. Is this payment amount correct? Use the payment function to calculate the monthly payment amount for your car loan until it's equal to the sum of loan amount and the interest rate number of payments, right? So that's what I'm doing in this variable one. So again, it's giving me the loan amount, it's giving me an interest rate. And that interest rate is my annualized interest rate. So this is on a yearly basis. It's giving me the number of payments. And it's asking me to calculate monthly payment. So I've got all right, so what do I have? I've got the here are my should I so all the functions that I can pick from. So I'm trying to calculate a monthly payment. So what do you guys think? So I'm trying to calculate a monthly payment amount. Function we think I could choose to calculate that payment amount. PMT. So PMT for payment, right? Correct. So I'm using a payment function, and again, it's gonna pop up and it's gonna ask me like. For my budget. So first thing I got is running rates. So as I said, we're trying to calculate a monthly payment amount and given us an annualized payment rate. What we want to do is we're going to take that and we're actually going to divide that rate by 12. And anytime we're doing an interest rate calculation, we get a annualized rate. If it's asking for monthly, we want to divide it to get that monthly right here.
So I have to type the sign.
You don't have to take a percent sign because it's already typed here, so it makes it already percent.
I didn't realize that C11 divided.
Yeah, so the reason that's important is because it's a percent, it's actually the number that's being calculated is 0.0599. Right, so if someone knows it's a percent, they have on that. Right, so I got my rate divided by 12. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, trust me, that's the one of the dumber, trickier things that probably can't do here. Okay, so then next is my number of periods. Put my foot in 16. And present value. It's my loan amount, because that's what I currently owe. That is. And I get 85.13. So that's what my monthly payment should be 185.15. So salesperson telling me that I will make $215.34. Payment around front. So we got 185. So yeah. One meter. That's easy. Alright, so you guys have this open. I'd like you to go through take a minute by yourself and go through scenario 2 here. But let's discuss it. Let's take that one. I'll read it out so we can think about it together. So it turns out that the payment amount will be $215. So per month for 6 months. What the interest rate for your loan if the loan amount is $9,500? It's the rate function to calculate the interest rate on the loan. It's 14. So we're going to calculate the interest rate. The
some these variables. Why is the penny different to is it just using that number?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm not sure what it would change it.
Can somebody tell me, so what are we gonna? What function am I gonna use here?
Right?
So we're using a rate. Looking it up, I got my number of periods, which is 16. Got my payment, which is 215, right? And then I've got my present value, which is my loan amount. So tell me, why is that not the right answer?
Did I divide it by 12? I multiplied by 12
And why am I multiplying that by 12?
because it's annual.
Monthly?
I mean, the monthly.
Okay, so the 1.04 is the monthly rate.
Yeah.
Because we calculated it from a monthly payment amount, so it gave me the monthly rate. When it just says interest rate, it wants the annualized rate, so because it wants the annualized rate, right? Multiply this entire thing, so I can take, since I closed my parentheses, I can just take a multiplication symbol. And put 12. That's what it gives me. So the interest rate that I'm paying on that loan is 12.47%. Okay. So let's do the same thing for effective interest rate, and we can see what the difference is. So if I do effect, it's going to actually be the nominal. Ask me for the nominal rate, which is that interest rate, and it's going to ask me for something else, which is the NPERY.
For a year.
So let's pretend we don't know what that is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it. Maybe I'm not. Oh, that's it. No, that's really. If I click on the function name, I don't know why. Normally, so if I click on it and if I don't know what it is, and I click on it and I scroll down here, it'll give me a little bit of syntax. It'll tell me that the number of compounding points per year. So so we go back into here. So we're compounding monthly, so we know it's 12. And it's telling me that the effective rate, again, because of compounding, is 13.21%. So it's higher than so the effective rate, what I'm really paying, is higher than the interest rate, or higher than the nominal quoted rate. Yeah.
Well, why isn't it just like 60? Is it?
That's the number of total payments. So what I know is that I have a monthly payment amount, which means in a year I'm making 12 payments, which means that it's 60 payments, so it's a 12-year loan. So because it's the word monthly that's what kind of makes. That's how we know. So if I told you you're going to make 24 payments in a year, that number would be 24 instead of 12. Sorry, what was your, I cut you off. What's your-
No. So, no, I was gonna ask, every time that it's effective annual interest rate, you're gonna use a number 12? It's annual?
Yeah, it's the current, yes.
If you're doing a monthly payment.
Right.
Effective annual. Just
Correct. It should be for most of these companies are going to rates. I'm pretty sure on the boss exam, everything is always like that. I've never seen it. It's not monthly, so. Any questions on that? All good? Basically, we can always assume that the account is a picture will be higher than the nominal rate. So if you're under, it's like a quick check. Check. Alright, so let's go ahead, take a stab at, take a couple of insight scenario three.
What was N for?
Percent the number of periods.
And scenario 4, that would be 36.
So in scenario three, so I'm looking to calculate the number of payments. So if somebody who has not given me something yet, tell me which function I can use. Find these. What function am I going to use to calculate the number of payments? As you guys got it. You got a like 20% chance. Just it's randomly out of the board. The number of payments. The last one. And fair. Okay, number of periods, number of payments, same thing. So we're gonna use one per. We got our rate. So again, we see the word monthly here. So I typically in that we gotta do something with dividing things by 12. So we're gonna take our rate again and we're gonna divide it by 12. Then I'm gonna get my payment, let's do 50. I got my loan amount, which is my present value. So we've got 41.82 payments. Whatever that means.
You click on the. Oh my god.
What is yours?
Oh, wait. Why, okay, so why does this, if I type in 250 instead of C21, it gives you negative. It's
The monthly payment amount is actually, it's negative. So type in negative 250. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that works.
Yeah. Basically, what the monthly payment is doing is we've got our loan amount and the monthly payment is you've seen the amount owed. That's why it's negative. Again, this is like it's not finance class. It's just like the same group, but yeah, that's why I want to negative. Okay. Okay. All right, let's do the last one. And let's just do it live here. So we're looking for our future account balance. Can somebody tell me what function you think we're gonna be using? Future value. So we're gonna type in FV for future value. That's the value in the future. We got a rate. I mean, what am I gonna, what's our rate here?
3%. That's 21.
That's going F21 divided by 12.
So rate, we always divide it by 12.
Not always. It's really like. When the rate is given to us annual, if it's a monthly interest rate, it wouldn't divide by 12. The thing is, we have like a mismatch here because we've got like this is per month savings, but I've got an interest rate that's an annualized interest rate. So we basically have to convert this into a monthly rate so that we can do the math. But again, if this had said like monthly interest rate, you don't need to do anything. You could just use it. If this had said savings per year or something like that, you wouldn't have to do it. So you just need to make sure they're matched correct. Okay, so we've got our rate, our number of periods, our number of months, and then we've got our payment, which is savings per month.
Just tell you that it's 2%.
It just says interest rate, so if it just says interest rate, assume it's an annualized. But generally, you will need to multiply or divide by 12. Like, I'm not going to say every time because I have seen times when it gets like that. But generally, it's going to give you an annualized rate. It's going to give you a monthly payment, and you're going to need these to divide them. Like 90% of the time, these are the homework rate. Example would be like this. Let's say, well, 3% is the budget the calculate the total gas money that's saved in cell at 25 months per month, find number of months you would be saved. So we're just gonna multiply 25 at 22. I don't know why they gotta see that. All right, let's see how it went. Right. Okay, any questions on? Any questions on any assumptions?
I'll get it, the rest is it. Could you please go on the first one, please? Yes.
So, it's looking for a monthly payment amount, right? It's giving us an annualized. So if I'm trying to calculate my monthly payment amount, so what function am I gonna use? Okay, so use PMT for payment. It's asking me for my rate. So I'm gonna take that rate and divide it by 12. Okay. Got my number of periods, which is 60. I've got my present value, which is my current loan amount. Where was the one where we so this is the other one that is going to get over and we'll multiply it by 12. So this is where we want that it has to be the rate. Right. So that's the calculated rate. And I basically calculated it, but I'm calculating it based on monthly payment. So That, in this scenario, that's where we multiply them all. Okay. Any questions? The last topic in chapter 12 is formula auditing. I'm actually gonna kind of show this a little bit on actually showing a couple things on this sheet. We can take a look at some other stuff. Basically, like formula auditing is the goal of the formula auditing functions is to make it easier to kind of visually see what's going on, and if there is a problem, kind of understand where a problem is coming from. So this doesn't necessarily help you do any calculations specifically. It's more about error checking and things of that nature. So if where you're going to find the formula checking for formula auditing functions is if we don't have formulas, basically going to be in this section here, we've got formula auditing, and we can do some. We've got a couple different things. So we've got trace precedence, trace dependence, show formulas. I think those are kind of the main ones. They may have something else here that they want to show. Basically, so if I'm, right now, all I see is numbers. If I wanted to see what was going on and I click show formulas, basically what that's going to do is it's going to put Excel in a format where it just shows me all the different things that are going on. So I can scroll around and see all my different formulas doing these. I can see what's going on, what are formulas and what. So that's just show formulas. It's a little something like this where there's not a ton of formulas. It's maybe not super beneficial, but it allows you to see all the formulas behind the numbers at one glance. First precedence, so this is going to show me, it's going to show arrows. So if I hover over this, right, it's going to say, it's going to show arrows that are impacting a current itself. So this is probably not show this on either. But if I click show precedence here, you'll see that I was in this cell. So I clicked in cell C14 and then I clicked show precedence, and basically it's showing. There's actually like 3 arrows that are pointed to this, but it's showing these 3 things point down to that one. And then show dependence is essentially the other way. So I clicked in this cell. I say dependence. Let me put a couple of numbers in here. So if I've got some data, let's just say like grades, whatever. None of this really matters, so let's just say, okay, I've got some numbers. I've got some more numbers. That's numbers. All right, and let's say I'm going to calculate something here. I'm going to calculate like a sum of this one, and this one, and this one. So by the way I selected those 3 was holding down the control key. So
shift.
So shift, when I hold shift selects the range. Control, when I hold down control, it selects, it doesn't select the range, it selects the individual cells. So if I click on that, then I hold down shift and click another one. Select the range. If I click on that and then hold down equal. Was that, okay, so we got our sum. So if I wanna see where the heck those numbers are coming from, that's where I can go to formulas. Expressants, and it'll show me that those three numbers are what is being used in this cell to calculate the numbers. Your formulas and it'll stay there too, so I can see my equation, I can see where it's numbers are coming from. Like say trace dependence, so let's arrows, let's say, so click on this one, I know this. I know this is not calculating on it's not using this for show, so I click trace dependence, something should be shown. So it is using, it's using. So it's using this one, so it should create an arrow that shows that that one is being used. That formula. Where this gets maybe beneficial is, let's say I had a second calculation that also used that number. And use a different number. And I did trace dependence again. Now I can see that this number, this cell is being used in two calculations. So again, this isn't doing anything for me. It's just allowing me to, if I thought for some reason this number was only used in one calculation or something like that, I can easily see that now it's being used in two. And I can just be like, oh, I didn't think that was gonna happen. But then if I, for some reason, I thought some number was being used in, I thought for some reason that the calculation here was being used something else, I can easily see, actually, so again, it's more about error checking, seeing where things came from, than it is like finding the right number. Any question on that? No, I don't actually even know what that's for. So look at this one. Sure, this should be pretty short and sweet. There is a whole lot of. Alright, so it says fix the calculations in the current column of the table. What formula should appear in cell J15? So I'm looking at. So I know I'm looking at cell J15. It says select the appropriate formula in cell 07. So you see over here, where it's going to give me like a little drop down, and it wants me to select. So we know if I click on this cell, right? I've got a formula up there, and what I should do is I want to see where those numbers are coming from. This problem is giving me this error, right? It says that means there's an error. So what I can do is I can go into my formulas and I can say express it, and I can see where those numbers are coming from. So I know that there's it's coming from the commission's earned column. If it says it's coming from, I can see that in the commission's earned column, there is also something that says there's an error value. So if I put my arrow, so I put that one, I can say express it, I can see that I've got an issue. So you can see that one of my numbers is coming from the daily sales amount. And the other one is coming from this cell, which is just text. Actually, if I go up to like this one, let's trace the precedence here. See that taking the daily sales amount and multiplying it by the commission. If I take a look at this next one down, I can see that I'm taking the daily sales amount and multiplying it by the sale below the commission percentage. So can anybody tell me what's going wrong here? What's the mistake that has been made how they formulated the commission on?
If they didn't click. Commission funds,
Where?
the one that says 0.
So you're saying the cell that I'm in right now, right here?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So they didn't click on that, so they clicked.
Below.
So right, so they clicked on the wrong box, but if I go down another one. It moves down again too, right?
Oh, please, it's.
So if we're looking at how this is formulated, what I can see is every single time. Every single time it's moving down by 1, right? Down, so that commission, that box is being calculated for commission. So the question remains like, what did they do wrong? What's not formulated right?
They needed to add a dollar sign in front.
Okay, they need to do an absolute reference in which cell.
G. Should be on G. Or
Right, so where do they want to type that? Where do I want to, what cell do I want to add that absolute reference to?
on F8.
F8.
The. Operated.
Right, so that's the cell that I want to reference. That's the cell I want to maintain the reference to. So where do I want to add that dollar sign? You're right. Sorry. You said, what was it? J15. So we're coming to J15. So if I add a dollar sign. What did I do? If I had a dollar sign there, nothing changed, but now if I drag this down, all those are going to calculate correctly, right? Now that updates, so everything's going to calculate correctly. So what formula should we use to show J15? So what we want to do is we want to say this G, this is G15 S and then 8 has the dollars. So that's the one that's selected. Okay, makes sense. So again, we knew there was a problem with commission amount. We tracked it down to the commission column. We saw the error in the commission column, and then we can use basically that to follow that. Yeah.
I have a question. Why is there not another thing after 8 as well? Or
So it's always so we put the absolute reference before the thing and constant. So the reason we put it before the 8. Put it before the 8 because we were copying our function down. So basically, if I copy without that number or without the dollar sign, if I copy this down, what's going to happen is that 15 is going to become a 16. And that 8 is going to become a 9. When I add that dollar sign and I move down, that 15 is going to become a 16, but that 8 will stay an 8. And so it's always going to reference.
when the letters they don't move?
Well, the letters move when I move columns.
Okay, but
Because when it goes down, the column isn't moving, so I don't need it. If you put there, it doesn't, it's fine, it's not going to matter. But if I move, let's say this way,
yeah,
then F becomes a G.
got it. I understand.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions on that? Oh, yeah.
So you're supposed to put $1 to get back to that. How did you fix the commission tools?
So all I did, so. Yeah, so I fixed this one, right?
Yes.
This one's still not right. So basically all I did is I took this function. I grabbed the corner
Oh,
and I just dragged it down. And filled the rest of them with that function. Okay. So again, dragging that corner is basically like a copy and paste structure you're dragging. The commission total in J8 may be correct, now the there's commission. Total in J8 may be correct, now that you fix the commissioner column and table takes. Commission total calculate correctly select your answer from down to 8 instead of 8. So now it's asking me if this is calculated correct, so we're gonna go back. I can always I can double click and see how this thing's calculated. It's calculated by the sum, so I can see the function for the formula. If I wanted to see where all those are coming from, I can show the fixed precedence, and it'll show me, it outlines how that will running, and it shows me a little arrow. So what do you guys think? So it says commission. Is the commission total calculated correctly? Essentially, answer.
Yes.
It's just the sum of all the commissions. Yeah?
Yeah.
I think yes, super. Now, go to the next one. The formula calculated average work, average doors not per day, it's on J9, includes the ranges for like doors not to doors answered. What range should be used in the average function in cell J9? So let's see. Yeah, so this is telling me, let's see what this looks like. So this is telling me it's an average. It's the average of C15, so it's an average of doors knocked and doors answered, doors answered. So it's saying the formula calculator used to calculate sales for doors knocked is also fixed calculations. Oh wait, did I go too far? Sorry about that. Alright, so I'm trying to calculate the average doors knocked per day. Alright, so we're calculating the average door knocked per day. We can see that the formula is an average of basically all of these. Right, so I double clicked on it. It's just showing me that it's calculating those two columns.
It should be 58.
So this is should be 70, we're just gonna do doors knocked. Doors knocked, so we'll get. So they just modified. It was like this, so basically just.
Yeah.
Just changed it.
That's a little one.
It's a new, they see. It's the people average position.
Right, it's saying the formula used to calculate sales per door knocked. It's also incorrect fixed calculation. In the range F15 F15 is the table sector correct formula. So let's see this. So it's saying sales per door knocked. So looks to me like I'm getting sales per door answered right now. So I've got E15 divided by E15, they're color coded, so you can see how they work. So what do I want to change here to make it sales per door knocked?
Change it to see,
So change what to see?
the need to see.
So I'm going to change door answered to knocked.
And then go slide it all the way down.
Right, so I can copy that by highlighting that formula that I changed, so I select the cell that I changed. Grab the button, the little toggle in the bottom right, and drag it down. To fill the rest of the cells right there. Again, that little toggle, that little thing in the corner, it's just a quick way to kind of do a copy of the names. That's it. So again, this platform where it's about using it's about using these. I don't really use these all that often because it's not super beneficial, but you can always understand things out in big data sets. See formulas really easily. I want to see for some reason how different things are being calculated. Always track and find out where things are. Something that's functional names for again, not super slow. I'm pretty sure after I don't think there's any materials on them, but they can be helpful to talk about some of your instructions. Cool. I think that's it for today. Any questions I can answer before we wrap things up? Cool. So if you can take a look at homework, the homework chapter for chapter 2. I think it's 2.5. You go through it, you got questions, like come with questions. You don't have to I want you to go through the homework. If you get stuck or whatever, like come in, be prepared to think with the answers fast and what you that's how it works. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Like this. Yes.